you ever thought about it? I mean, really, what is the purpose to life? Why are we here? Where did we come from? For that matter, where are we going to go when this life is over? In this seminar that talks about the age of the earth, Dr. Hovind gives solid evidence to show that this earth is not billions of years old. In fact, the evidence points towards a literal 6-day creation, like told about in Genesis chapter 1. Hi, my name is Aaron, and we hope you enjoy this incredibly powerful seminar presented by Dr. Hovind. It's called The Age of the Earth.
Well, thank you for joining us. My name is Kent Hovind. I taught high school science for 15 years, and now for the last 14 years I've been an evangelist doing seminars on creation, evolution, and dinosaurs. And I don't like anybody sneaking up on me, so I'm going to tell you what I believe so you know what my seminar is going to be about here. I believe the Bible is the infallible, inspired, inerrant Word of the living God. I believe it from cover to cover. I even believe the cover on mine. It says Kent Hovind. I believe that. And in case you don't know, the Bible is your basic instructions before leaving Earth. You may want to read the book because you're going to be gone for a long time. Be sure you're going to the right spots. Now, one of my jobs as a Christian is to be ready always to give an answer to every man that asketh the reason of the hope that's in me. And I think in the last 200 years, the Christians have not done a very good job of answering the atheists and skeptics. And we've allowed this evolutionary philosophy to take over our school system, our legal system, our whole thinking process. And it's about time we do something about it. There are 3 things I try to accomplish in my seminar. Number 1, I want to strengthen your faith in the Word of God. Number 2, if you're not saved, I'm going to try to get you converted today. Number 3, if you're saved and you're not doing much for the Lord, then I'm going to try to make you uncomfortable. Plain and simple. You know what I believe and where I'm coming from now, so that ought to make it easy. I won't sneak up on anybody. That's what I believe. Now, I need to warn you, just about every sin in the book is mentioned in my seminar series. It's likely that everybody's toes will be stepped on at least once. We recommend steel-toed shoes or a willingness to move your feet. You will need one or the other. All right, this is not my wife. That's just a picture of her. Be our 30th anniversary this summer. The first prayer I ever prayed in my life. I was about 2 minutes old. My mom said when I was delivered, they handed me to her, and she counted my fingers, make sure I arrived intact, and then she folded my little hands and said, "Lord, would you please supply my boy a good wife someday?" And man, did he do it. Wow. Been 30 years this summer. It's been awesome. I really appreciate my wife. She's a piano player. And I used to play a piano in a marching band. I just hurt my back so bad, I had to give it up. I'm kidding. We have 3 children. We live in Pensacola, Florida. We have 3 kids, 1 of each. My kids are 24, 25, and 26, a year and 2 weeks apart. It's called family planning where I come from. Let's see. Son Eric is an evangelist. He travels and speaks on creation, and his wife works in our finance department, and they made me grandpa last September 2002. And then my son Ken Andrew, sitting back there at one of the cameras, he and his wife made me grandpa again about 4 months ago. And he works in our video editing department, and she works in our bookstore. And then my other daughter, my only daughter, I found someone 2 years ago to take over payments on her. And she's my scheduling secretary, and her husband runs our shipping and receiving department. So we not only believe in nepotism, we practice it around our place. All 6 of them work in our ministry, and we're proud to have them. Now, we have in our ministry Dinosaur Adventureland. If you ever get to Pensacola, you have to stop and see the most unusual place on planet Earth. I got sick and tired of all the museums and science centers teaching evolution, so I said, let's just do one that teaches creation. So we have a science center, hands-on activities, a museum, and an activity theme park that'll blow your mind. Everything has science lessons and spiritual lessons. We had 10,000 visitors our second year open, shooting for a whole lot more this year. We have lots of kids come through. People come from all over the world just to see our Dinosaur Adventureland. We want to help start these all over the country. We think God ought to get the glory for His creation. Everything we do has a science lesson. Kids learn about science, and they learn how to be closer to the Lord. That's the purpose of what we're doing here. Dinosaurs every place. Our ministry is sponsored by folks who love the Lord and love our ministry. When I started this ministry 14 years ago, I said, Lord, I'm not going to copyright my stuff. I'm not going to charge for seminars. And I'm not going to send out a letter every month begging for money. And if you don't supply, I'm going to quit. Plain and simple. And it's been really neat. The Lord just lays it on somebody's heart, and something comes in the mail, and the Lord has supplied. It's been 15 years that way now, almost, and it's awesome, seeing the Lord supply. So come on down and pay us a visit. We have a lot of homeschool science classes that we offer. We teach homeschool classes there at our Dinosaur Adventureland facilities, and we have stuff on all kinds of different topics. We add more all the time. God's given us about 30 just amazingly talented people to work in our ministry, and we think you'd appreciate it. If you're driving through Pensacola, be sure to stop in. We've sent out about 100,000 tapes a year for the last couple of years, videotapes. None of my material is copyrighted. Feel free to copy it and spread it to others. Of course, we'd prefer you get it from us, and we can use the income for our ministry, but if you want to copy it, feel free to do so. It's just been amazing watching it grow for the last 14 years from nothing to what it is today. Now let's get started. There are 4 great questions that every single religion in the world tries to answer. Every religion, including atheism, which is a religion. You see, you have to believe there is no God. There's no way to know that. But every religion tries to answer these 4 fundamental questions of life. Who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? And where am I going when I die? The way you answer these questions depends upon how you view the world. There are 2 ways to look at this world. Some people look at the world and say, you know, it's amazing. A big bang made this from nothing. That's called the humanist worldview. Other people look at the world and say, you know, there's incredible design. There must have been a designer. And that's called the creationist worldview. And those 2 worldviews are absolutely at war with each other. Somebody is wrong. And I enjoy showing them who they are. I do a lot of debates at universities. I've had 3 debates in the last 9 days. Been traveling all over the country doing debates, and I've had 77 altogether now. Can't wait for my next one, but we can't find any more opponents. They don't want to defend the idea that we all came from Iraq 4.6 billion years ago, I guess, and we're running out of opponents. But the idea that evolution is true, I think, is not only silly, I think it is dangerous. But if the evolution theory is true, how would you answer the 4 fundamental questions of life? Who am I, and what am I worth? Well, if evolution is true, you are nothing important. You're just a piece of protoplasm that washed up on the beach, and you're not worth a thing. Actually, you're part of the problem because you're one of the polluters of the environment. And the more of you we can get rid of, the better. See, that's normal thinking if evolution is true. Where did I come from? Well, if evolution is true, we all came from a cosmic burp about 20 billion years ago. Why am I here? What's the purpose of life? Well, if evolution is true, there is no purpose, so you might as well have fun. If it feels good, do it. Where am I going when I die? Well, if evolution is true, we're all going to the grave, and we're going to get recycled into a worm or a plant. But the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now, if that's true, that puts a very different set of answers to those questions. That means we better try to figure out who God is and find out what He wants and do what He says. But boy, the devil doesn't like that. The devil came to Eve in the Garden of Eden. He said to the woman, yea, hath God said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? ? Did you know the first sentence out of the devil's mouth was a question to make Eve doubt God's word? He's still doing the same thing today. He wants you to doubt God's word. The second thing he said to the woman, he said, ye shall not surely die. Now he's calling God a liar. The third thing he said was, Eve, if you eat off that tree, ye shall be as gods. And right there is where the whole idea of evolution got started. It didn't start with Charlie Darwin. It started with Satan in the Garden of Eden. He wants you to think you can become a god. Yes, boys and girls, we started off like an amoeba, and we're evolving. We're getting bigger and better and stronger and smarter, and someday we're going to sail around the universe and discover new life forms like Star Trek. People ask me all the time. They say, Brother Hovind, do you think there's intelligent life on other planets? I say no. I taught high school 15 years. There's not much intelligent life on this planet. Satan's a liar. Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of folks have swallowed that, though. The Mormon church teaches if you're a good Mormon, when you go to heaven, you get to be God. And if you're a good Mormon wife, when you go to heaven, you get to be eternally pregnant, producing spirit babies. My wife don't want to go. She said, that's not heaven, honey. And by the way, there are some great books to reach Mormons, and if you want to reach Mormons, get any of these books here on the screen. I'd recommend that 100%. This is a good website to reach Mormons, utlm.org, Utah Lighthouse Mission, if you want to get that awesome website on the reaching the Mormons. I was shocked to find out a couple years ago, some of the major Catholic theologians of the past have taught that man gets to become God. Now, the average Catholic doesn't believe that, and they don't even know some of their leaders have taught that. But that's official doctrine, that man can become God. The idea that man can become God came from the devil in the Garden of Eden. He's the one who wants to be God. Lucifer said, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. You see, the devil wants to be God, but the job is not available. So he's all upset about that, and he can't be God, so he's mad at God. But he can't do anything to God, so he's mad at us, because we are made in God's image. Did you ever wonder why the devil hates you so bad? It's because you remind him of God. So he lied to Eve and told her she could become like God. Hitler said, if you tell a lie long enough and loud enough and often enough, the people will believe it. He said they're more likely to believe a big lie than a small one. Now, if you want to get somebody to believe a lie, you have to do it like my two big brothers did with me. I have two older brothers. They've always been older than I am. But when I was about 6 years old, I was raised in East Peoria, Illinois, and I came running in for breakfast one morning, and I was the first one there for breakfast. And I got the last banana out of the bowl to put on my cereal. Well, a few minutes later, my two big brothers came in. They said, hey, Kent, is that the last banana? I said, yep, and I got it. How many of you have an older brother or sister? You know that wonderful feeling you get when you finally pull one over on them? Boy, that morning I had them, and I knew it. They wanted my banana. But big brothers do not beg little brothers for anything. They either beat them up and take it away by brute force, or they lie to them and trick them out of it somehow. So my brothers said, hey, Kent, do you know how bananas are made? I said, no. I was only 6 years old. It's been proven in laboratory tests the brain doesn't even start to grow until kids are 18 to 20. How many parents can verify that one from raising kids? Yeah. I said, no, how are bananas made? And they said, well, down in South America, they have these spiders that live up in the trees, and when they die, all their legs fold up, and then mold begins to grow on the dead spider legs. And a banana is actually made from moldy spider legs. I said, you guys are lying to me. You just want this banana because you know it's the last one. They said, no, brother, we're not lying. You cut that thing in half and look in the middle, you can still see the black spots where his legs were. You know, I did not eat bananas for nearly 3 years after that. They lied to me. Have you ever been lied to before? You know, I would not have believed that lie if it hadn't been for those black spots. If you want to get somebody to believe a lie, you have to mix it in with some truth. That's a technique they've been using for years to sell all sorts of different products. They mix two things together that do not belong together. That's what they do to kill rats. They mix good food and rat poison together. Did you know rat poison is 99.995% good food? There's very little poison in rat poison. But the poison is what kills them, of course. They mix two things together that simply don't belong together. They do the same thing to sell cigarettes. They mix them in with cowboys. Have you stopped and thought about that? What is the connection between smoking Marlboro and cowboys? Do all cowboys smoke Marlboro? No. Do you have to smoke Marlboro to be a cowboy? No. If you start smoking Marlboro, do you become a cowboy automatically? No. You may smell like a horse, but you are not a cowboy. Actually, it's been proven in laboratory tests that nobody in the world smokes. Nobody smokes. Only the cigarette smokes. The person is the sucker. That's all. I think they ought to have some truth in advertising. They should put the real name on those things. They should call them cancerettes, breath rotters, bypass, malignant, phlegm balls, and money suckers. Truth in advertising. You know, but they do the same thing to sell beer. They try to associate beer with sports. What does beer have to do with sports? They always get some big old football player standing there holding his can of Bud Dumber. Or Bud Stupid. You know, they call it Bud Weiser, but it don't make him any wiser, that's for sure. He's got his Bud Dumber, Miller Low Life, or Dead Dog, whatever it is. He says, man, you drink this stuff and you'll be a football player. Yeah, right. The Bible says you drink that stuff and you will wreck your life. Who hath woe? They that tarry long at the wine. How many lives have been ruined from alcohol? How many innocent lives have been ruined because somebody else was drinking and ran into them or ran over them or something? The Bible says don't even look at it when it becomes fermented. Habakkuk said, woe to him that giveth his neighbor drink. One kid said to me one day, he said, what's the matter, Mr. Hovind? Don't you like beer? I said, I don't know. I've never tasted it. I'm 50 years old, never had a drop in my life. Well, I've had NyQuil a couple times. And he said, well, how do you know you won't like it if you don't try it? I said, oh, son, that's a brilliant way to live. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever laid your head under a semi-truck? Well, how do you know you won't like it if you don't try it? You don't have to try everything to figure out if it's good or bad. There's other ways to learn, you know. But this mixing of the good and the bad together is exactly what's going on in our science textbooks. Now, folks, I like science. I taught it for 15 years. I even have a PhD in education. Stands for post-hole digger. Got one. I'm not against science. I want two kids here that like science that would like to learn the scientific way to shoot a rubber band. Okay, right there, ma'am. Do you know how to do this already? No, come on up here. Come on up here. And one more. Let's get one boy up here. One boy that wants to learn the scientific way. You can do it. Come on. You want to learn this? You can be a movie star, too. People are going to see this all over the place. Now, what's your name?
Lindsay.
Lindsay, and this is?
Aaron.
Aaron. Let me get my rubber bands here. I just happen to have a few rubber bands. Okay, Lindsay, pick a rubber band out of there.
Okay.
And Aaron, right? I want you to see how far down the center aisle you can shoot that rubber band. Okay, Lindsay, go ahead.
Okay.
Right there. Oh, wow. About 8 rows back. Okay, Aaron. Ooh, about 9 rows back. Now, I know the scientific way to shoot a rubber band. In just a moment, you're going to ask me a question, and the question has 5 words in it. I already know the question that you're going to ask me. Watch this. You ready? Back row of the church. And the question is?
How'd you do that?
How did you do that? I told you, it had 5 words in it. Now, I am fully aware of the fact that some people should not learn how to do some things.
He's one of them.
He's one of them. She says he's one of them. Okay. Now pay attention. There are 2 sides to the rubber band. Are you with me so far? Okay. One side represents your flesh, your body. The other side is your spirit. What most people do wrong, and what both of you did wrong with rubber band shooting, you put the same emphasis on the flesh and the spirit. If you stretch both sides the same, when it goes through the air, if you could watch it in slow motion, they are fighting with each other all the way. So all the energy is being used up on internal turbulence. Not good. The secret to high-speed velocity through a fluid medium such as the atmosphere, which offers resistance, is to minimize or eliminate the turbulence. All I did differently when you weren't watching is I put one side tighter than the other, like this. This is tight, loose. It's okay. Now, what's going to happen, if you can release it quickly enough, it takes a little practice, but it'll spin through the air, taking away the turbulence, so the spirit actually leads the flesh. So when I'm standing up here speaking, realizing I can hit anybody in the room, it's an awesome feeling. You can understand that, can't you?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. Hey, let's give him a big hand here. Have a seat. That is one of about 50 different science lessons we teach kids at our Dinosaur Adventureland, how to shoot the rubber band the scientific way. And some of you are not going to go very far in your life because you put too much emphasis on the flesh. Quit emphasizing the flesh so much and start emphasizing the spirit, and you'll be amazed what you can do for the Lord. When we get done here today, we're going to make some paper airplanes that'll go about 400 feet during the break time. You can get on our website and see how to make those under super long-distance airplanes. They're pretty cool, too. We like science. I'm not against science, folks, but I'm telling you, there's some poison mixed in with our science books. And that's what I want to show you today. I'm not against the science. I'm against the poison part. Here's a first-grade textbook. They tell the kids in first grade, Earth has changed much since its formation 4.5 billion years ago. Now just hold on a minute. Is the Earth 4.5 billion years old? No, as we'll see in a minute. But if you tell that to a first grader, he's going to believe you. First graders believe everything you tell them. They believe bananas are moldy spider legs. I did. And then tell them again in second grade, since its formation 4.5 billion years ago, Earth has changed. Down here it says, life too has evolved on Earth. This word evolved is a very tricky word. I've had 77 debates now at universities. I've learned how to win the debate in the first 5 minutes. If somebody says, do you believe in evolution? I simply say, what do you mean? Because there are 6 different meanings to that word. You let them define exactly what they mean, and you probably believe in it. Because one of the 6 meanings is indeed scientific, and I do believe in it. 5 of them are not scientific. They're silly. But they mix them all together like it's some kind of package deal, and you got to buy them all at the same time. This is how they confuse the kids. It's so simple. Now watch this. The first meaning of the word evolution would have to be cosmic evolution. Somewhere, somehow, time, space, and matter have to come into existence. The Bible answers that in 10 words. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In the beginning, that's time. Time has 3 dimensions, past, present, future. You know, you can't be any place and be outside of time. It permeates everything. In the beginning, God created the heaven. Heaven is 3 dimensions, length, width, height. And earth, matter, has 3 dimensions, solid, liquid, gas. A trinity of trinities in only 10 words. You know, you can't have any one of those without the other 2. If you had matter but had no space, where would you put it? If you had matter and space but had no time, when would you put it? Those 3 come into existence simultaneously. The Big Bang Theory has to try to answer that. It's a dud. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you have to have what we call cosmic evolution. Secondly, there would have to be chemical evolution. If the Big Bang Theory is true, the Big Bang produced hydrogen and maybe some helium. Well, then how did we get all these other elements? People say, oh, it's done by fusion. Yeah, you can't get past iron with fusion. Better study that one out. Thirdly, we'd have to have what's called stellar evolution. The stars would have to evolve. Did you know nobody's ever seen a star forming? We see stars blow up all the time. It's called a nova or a supernova if it's a big one, but nobody's ever seen one form. One atheist I debated said, oh, we see a star forming right now in Crab Nebula. I said, no, you don't. You see a spot getting brighter. You are assuming a star is forming. It could be the dust is clearing and there's a star behind it. Nobody's ever proven the formation of one star. And yet there's enough stars out there that we know about that everybody on planet Earth can personally own 2 trillion of them to yourself. Those are the ones we know about. We don't know about the ones that we don't know about. Fourthly, there would have to be organic evolution. Somewhere, somehow, life has to get started from non-living material. The evolutionist is stuck with a very embarrassing position. He still believes in spontaneous generation, even though it was proven wrong 200 years ago. They're way behind the time in their science. Then we'd have to have what we call macroevolution. This is where an animal changes to a different kind of animal. Nobody's ever seen a dog produce a non-dog. You may get a big dog or a little dog, but you get a dog every time. And it could be that the dog, the wolf, and the coyote had a common ancestor. I wouldn't argue about that. But they're the same kind of animal. And every 5-year-old kid knows they are. Is anybody in here 5 years old? Who's 5 or 6? Yes, sir. Way at the back. What's his name? Sal. Seth? Sal. How do you spell that? S-A-L. Sal. Okay, Sal, I want you to take a test here, buddy. Here we have a dog, a wolf, a coyote, and a banana. Which one is not like the others, Sal? The banana. Let's give him a hand. All right. Very good. This kid's 5 years old. He can figure it out. We got college professors that can't figure it out. They think everything's all the same kind. Yeah. The Bible says they're going to bring forth after their kind, not after their species. Darwin's book was The Origin of Species. That's not even what the argument's about. What's the origin of kinds? That's where the argument ought to be. And a kind is those that can bring forth. That's how you determine what a kind is. A horse and a zebra can bring forth. A horse and a banana cannot. Lastly, we have what is called microevolution. I don't like that word. I think it confuses people, okay? But they call it microevolution. Okay, I think it ought to be called just a variation. Whatever you call it, it happens. Variations within the kind happen, folks. Some pretty bizarre variations. You know, big dogs and little dogs. No question. Variations happen. That one is scientific. It should not be called any kind of evolution, but they do it, so okay, we'll call it. The first 5 are purely religious. That's not part of science. The teachers are taught in their teachers' manuals, be sure to stress that the earth is billions of years old. Make sure the kids believe this. Now, I happen to be a little old-fashioned. I think in science class we should be teaching science. Things we can observe and study and test and demonstrate. Things like the first law of thermodynamics, which tells us matter cannot be created or destroyed. Well, everything's made out of matter, so if matter cannot be created or destroyed, how did the world get here? We're here, you know. So that leaves only 2 choices. Somebody made the world, or the world made itself. There's no other choice. Well, there are a few out there on the lunatic fringe who will tell you, we're not really here at all. We just think we're here. Okay, you can forget about those folks. We are here. So either somebody made the world like the Bible says, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, or the world made itself like the humanists believe. Well, if the world just made itself, how did it get here? Well, the devil thought about that for a long time, and finally one day he came up with the Big Bang Theory. How many of you have ever heard of the Big Bang Theory before? I was on the airplane years ago flying from Dallas to San Francisco, the land of the fruits and the flakes. And I happened to sit right next to a professor from Berkeley, UCal Berkeley. I don't know if you folks here in Wisconsin have ever heard of Berkeley or not, but Berkeley is not a Bible college. So here I was on the airplane sitting about that far away from this guy, and we started talking about creation and evolution. Everybody I sit by on the airplane wants to talk about that. So I talk about it with him. He said he believed in evolution. I said, yes, sir, I figured that. You have to teach at Berkeley. I said, tell me, sir, if you believe in evolution, how did the world get here? He said, it came from the Big Bang. I said, really? I'd like to hear about this. He said, you're a science teacher and you've never heard of the Big Bang? I said, oh, yes, sir, I've heard a lot about the Big Bang. And I believe in the Big Bang. But my Big Bang is a whole lot different than yours. You tell me about your Big Bang, and then I'll tell you about my Big Bang. And so the professor started off on one of those answers. It looked like it came straight from the textbook. He said, well, Mr. Hovind, I believe about 18 or 20 billion years ago, all the matter in the universe. Ooh, now that's a lot of stuff. And by the way, did you know the word universe comes from two Latin words? Uni means single, and verse is a spoken sentence. You know, we have verse and prose. Did you know we live in a universe, a single spoken sentence? God said, let there be. Now that'll preach, brother. There's a sermon in there someplace, okay? And if you can't find it, you ain't got no preach in you at all right? All the matter in the universe was concentrated into one very dense, very hot region that may have been much smaller than a period on this page. What? Everything in the universe squished into a dot smaller than a period on a page? Wow. That's one crowded dot. And heavy, too. Who held that thing up? By the way, this ain't the first time it happened, kids. This textbook says, someday all of the matter and energy will once again be packed into a small area, no bigger than the period at the end of this sentence. Then another big bang will occur. It happens every 80 to 100 billion years. Did you know they cut down a tree to print that? Where's Al Gore when you need him? That's what I want to know, yeah. Now, this textbook author was brilliant. I could not believe how smart this guy was. He said, boys and girls, nothing really means nothing. You have to be at least that smart to write a book. He said not only matter and energy would disappear, but also space and time. However, physicists theorize that from the state of nothingness, the universe began in a gigantic explosion. What? Yes, boys and girls, you see, one day, nothing exploded. And here we are. Oh, that explains it. That sure does. We could spend hours talking about the Big Bang Theory. Get my college class, CSE 101, if you want to get into a whole lot more. We took our seminar and stretched it out to 60 hours and chased every rabbit and kicked every dog. And it's a whole lot more stuff on the college class, CSE 101, 102, 103, and 104. Here's Discover magazine from April 2002. They said, boys and girls, where did everything come from? Yes, right here it says, the universe burst into something from absolutely nothing. Zero, nada. As it became bigger, it became filled with even more stuff that came from absolutely nowhere. How was that possible? Ask Alan Guth. His theory explains everything. Wow, I got to meet this Alan Guth guy. Alan Guth said in Scientific American, he said, boys and girls, the observable universe could have evolved from an infinitesimal region. In the Greek, that's a dot. He said it's then tempting to go one step further and speculate that the entire universe evolved from literally nothing. Wow. Yes, boys and girls, you see, we all came from a dot, and the dot came from nothing. They call that science and put it in a science book. I think I'd call that a fairy tale and put it in the garbage. I said, Professor, well, what happened to your dot? He said, well, Hovind, about 20 billion years ago, all the dirt in the universe was in this one little bitty tiny dot. And it was spinning real fast. This is what the textbooks teach. It spun faster and faster. And one day, boom, it exploded. And the pieces flew off, and they became galaxies and sun, moon, stars, and finally, people. And we're nothing but stardust. I said, sir, may I ask you a few questions, please? He said, sure. What would you like to know? I said, well, you told me 20 billion years ago, all the dirt got together for this big squish and the big spin and the big bang. Where'd all this dirt come from? Who made matter? He said, we don't know about that. I said, okay, sir, now hold it. If I told you that I believe about 6,000 years ago, God created the heaven and the earth, then you're going to say, and where did God come from? And I don't know. But you said 20 billion years ago there was a big bang, and you don't know where the dirt came from. So basically, I believe in the beginning God, and you believe in the beginning dirt. Don't tell me my theory is religious and yours is science. Oh, no, no, no. They're both religious. Both creation and evolution are religious, but the news media and the textbooks try to make it appear as if this is an argument between religion and science. I did a debate in El Paso, Texas, and they said, religious and scientific leaders debate evolution. This is called slanted journalism. It was two religions debating each other, not science and religion. Evolution is a religion, not a science. Both views, both creation and evolution, are inherently religious. The difference is the evolution religion is tax-supported. And they couldn't survive without tax support. I've been saying for years, anybody that wants to believe in evolution should start a private school and teach those that want, who else wants to believe in evolution?